Joining us now is Zara Sultana, who's one of the 7 Labour MPs who was suspended from the party last night. The whip's been taken away from them for 6 months by Sir Keir Starmer for voting against the government to call for the scrapping of the 2-child benefit cap. You're here now. Hello.
Good morning.
How are you feeling this morning? Were you surprised that he moved so swiftly to discipline the lot of you?
Well, I didn't hear from anyone that the whip would be withdrawn, so I was obviously shocked. But for me, taking a stand against child poverty, one of the biggest scourges in the country, which affects 4.3 million children, is something that I'm very proud to have stood my ground on. I think the child benefit cap, alongside 11 Labour Party-affiliated unions, the TUC, which represents 6 million workers, as well as Gordon Brown, the Archbishop of Canterbury, even Keir Starmer in his 2020 leadership pitch, we all think that it should be scrapped, and that's what we voted on yesterday.
He's not messing about, is he, your boss?
Well, the whip was withdrawn and there's a process which will take 6 months, and in that time, I hope to continue to stand by my principles and see that whip restored in due course.
Would you have voted the same way if you'd have known that the whip was going to be withdrawn?
In my speech yesterday, I supported the King's Speech. I look forward to many bills that will be coming forward in this government, including nationalising rail, the New Deal for working people, but I was also very honest that we should go further. We can make a real difference to people's lives. And when you've got anti-charity campaigners, think tanks, trade unions saying that the key driver for child poverty in this country, which is the 6th largest economy in the world, is the Tories' 2-child benefit cap, then it is a moral imperative on the Labour Party to scrap that and do everything that they can to make sure that not a single child has to live in unnecessary hardship and poverty.
How soon after you'd rebelled did you get the call to say the whip had been taken away from you?
So there was a vote straight after that main amendment that I had voted for, and then on the way home, when I looked into my emails, that's when I saw the email.
And who does that come from, the Chief Whip?
It came from the Chief Whip.
And what does it actually say?
It basically just says, it's quite long, but it basically says that the Chief Whip and the Labour Party leadership have decided on the basis of your vote against the party whip that there is a suspension, and it will take a 6-month process, and they will review it and so forth.
What would happen later today, say, if you were in the Commons and you bumped into Keir Starmer? What would you say to him? Well,
I haven't spoken to Keir for over 2.5 years, and that was a conversation that was based on my security. It was due to the fact that I had received so much abuse, and in fact, last parliamentary term, I was notified by the parliamentary authorities that online I have received the most abuse, and it is often racial, it is often gendered, and it is often because I'm speaking up about issues like racism and a whole host of other issues.
But my question stands, if you were to bump into him today on the floor, what would you say to him?
I wouldn't know what to say, actually, because we haven't had a conversation. So I imagine, firstly, I'd be shocked that we're having a conversation.
Well, no, I mean, no matter sort of... Obviously, it was, from your point of view, a clear-cut decision because of how you feel about this cap, but was there a part of you that was thinking, you know, it's hard to go against my leader this early on?
Absolutely. It is never an easy decision to defy your party's whip, but in my constituency of Coventry South, 10,000 children live in poverty. That's 1 in 3 children. When I'm talking to parents and I'm talking to teachers, when I'm volunteering at the food bank, I am hearing these stories of kids who are going to sleep hungry at night. They are going to school learning on an empty stomach. They are returning to cold homes. They are missing out on experiences that every child should enjoy. And there are all of these impacts on children beyond the immediate impacts. This is on their health, this is on their well-being, and even their life expectancy. So those are all the stories and all the things that I need to know when I'm voting in this particular way, because I got elected and I'm in the Labour Party. I joined actually when I was 17 years old because I care about equality and social justice. So for me, acting as a backbench MP in the interest of my constituents is what I do every single day.
Labour have talked about the child poverty strategy, though, haven't they, which they say is going to address that, but you don't think that that's going to be good enough, then?
I welcomed it in my King's Speech. I said that this was a good move, but it doesn't go far enough because the evidence is already there. So we are choosing to wait to act on this when we know what the facts say. And every single day is a day too long when 330,000 kids are still in poverty when they don't need to be.
What do you guys think about Keir Starmer's swiftness in disciplining the rebels?
Yeah, I'm surprised you weren't told. I wrote in my Mirror column on Monday that the whip was going to be removed if you rebelled. I thought I knew that from Starmer's people, so I thought the MPs would.
I was not directly spoken to at all.
I would have thought you were. No, I do think it's a huge overreaction. It's draconian.
Do you?
It could backfire. Rather than saying to new MPs, which is what it is, you've been there before, but the whole idea is to say to new MPs, you rebel, your career will be over before it starts. So by treating the 7 as an example, they hope to persuade others to stay in line.
Of course, with the size of the majority they've got, he can afford to do this, can't he?
Yeah, it was a knife-edge 260 majority in that round. So it was never...
No.
But I think the cap is heinous because it plunges 1.6 million kids into poverty, and it should be lifted.
Nearly 80% of our viewers disagree with you and think that if you have more than 2 kids, it's up to you.
Exactly. I get George Osborne, who was the Conservative Chancellor when he introduced it, he knew that because he could always use the argument, if you can't afford to have kids, don't have them. And some of those people, the 80% backing it, well, they'll be claiming their child benefit and cash and other support themselves.
Well, what do you make of it? You know, is this sort of Keir Starmer just stamping his authority and saying, right, you know, don't vote against me on this one?
There is one aspect of this which is about the substance, which is the cap. But this, I think, is a little bit more dangerous because whilst I probably disagree with you on a lot of stuff, Zara, I want to pick up something that you said, Richard. Mm-hmm. So Keir Starmer is not her boss. Her constituents are her boss, and the CLP that she represents her boss.
Yep.
We are in a parliamentary system. We have a party that has a loose, well, it's tighter now, but usually a loose affiliation in which you crowd around together. If you don't want to have a big career and if you want to come in on issues, then you are free as an MP to say what you want to represent your constituents.
Right.
I think this sets a really ugly precedent about the way that Sir Keir Starmer may want to govern his parliamentary party.
It was explained to me by one of the government whips, one of the Labour whips, that it's because it's the King's Speech which sets out the manifesto programme from winning the election we've just had, and scrapping the 2-child benefit cap wasn't in, and then it was also going to be by voting for an SNP, a rival party's motion, rather than one of your own, because the Labour motion, which far more of your colleagues backed, I think it was several dozen, didn't get called for a vote. So there could have been more people suspended, actually, had they gone.
Well, interestingly, in the commercial break before we had this conversation, you were telling me, Zara, that actually you woke up this morning having had a very good night's sleep, and you feel that you can actually put your head on the pillow with a clear conscience.
Absolutely. I slept knowing that I took a stand against child poverty that is affecting 4.3 million people in this country. And it's the right thing to do, and I'm glad I did it.
All right, thank you for coming in.
Country first, party second.
Exactly.